everyone, it's Mishri, and it has been a while since I last made a video, but now I have a good reason to. I wanted to share that I finally got my spouse visa in Japan, and I want to share how I got it. Okay, firstly, you have to remember that getting a spouse visa in Japan is a two-step process, and in this video we're going to focus on the very important first step, which is getting a certificate of eligibility. Now, if you're applying for a visa in Japan for a long-term stay, you would need a certificate of eligibility for everything. You want to go as a student? Certificate of eligibility. Work visa? Certificate of eligibility. Everything else, certificate of eligibility. So it's very important to keep this in mind when you're applying for a long-term visa. This is the most important part. Okay. Obviously, the documents vary in the kind of visa that you're applying for. Since I'm applying as a spouse visa, the documents are a bit more specific towards that. So, what are the requirements for a certificate of eligibility for a spouse visa? Okay, here's the rundown. Application form, questionnaire form, snapshots of yourself as a couple, a 4 cm by 3 cm portrait shot of yourself looking straight into the camera, white background, no head covering. A letter of guarantee from your guarantor, your marriage certificate in your home country, translation of said marriage certificate, the ID of your proxy, ID card, and the JUMINHYO or residence card of your guarantor, the kosekitohon of your spouse, the juminzei or tax payment certificates of your guarantor, and a return mail envelope with a 392 yuan stamp. So, further details on each document will be discussed by me soon enough. But first of all, it's very important for you to note that if you and your husband are living outside of Japan, especially for more than 1 year, your husband is not qualified to be your guarantor. So weird, I know, but this is the case. The Japanese government wants to make sure that your guarantor is the one who has been in Japan for at least 1 year, enough for that guarantor to have a tax payment to the Japanese government. And since if your husband has been living outside of the country for a long time, obviously, even if he is a Japanese citizen, he is not qualified to be your guarantor because he has not been making payments to the Japanese government as a taxpayer. So you will need assistance from your husband's parents, relatives, close relatives, emphasis on close, or a legal representative. So this is very important to consider. Obviously, if your Japanese spouse is working in Japan, then this cuts down the requirements, making it so much easier. Because of course, number one, you're not causing a hassle to your parents-in-law, and two, your partner can just do everything in Japan. Payment of tax certificate, easy. Japanese residence card, easy. But since the case is my partner and I are outside of Japan, we have to do a request from his parents. So keep that in mind when you're applying. Okay, so for the details of each of the application requirements, take note that all of them have to be written in Nihongo. This is for ease of mind for both you and the Immigration Bureau officer. Firstly, application form. Application form, write it all in Nihongo. In terms of specific details, for example, I just wrote that the port of entry will be Narita Airport or Kansai Airport. Years of stay, I wrote 1 to 3 years because those are the average duration of spouse visas. So questionnaire form, this is a very detailed form required by the Japanese Immigration Bureau. You have to provide all the details of your relationship. Sometimes it can feel a bit invasive, but this is their way of ensuring that your relationship is legitimate. You might be surprised to find questions such as, what kind of house are you living in and how many rooms are in there if you're renting? How much do you pay monthly if you own it? How do you pay for it? Are you sharing this residence with other people? And then there's also details such as, how long have you been together? How often have you visited each other's countries? How many people in your family are aware of the existence of this relationship? How many people were in attendance to your civil wedding. Provide a detailed summary of your relationship. So for that one, we filled out the application form, the questionnaire form in Nihongo. And then my husband provided another sheet of paper detailing the relationship from the very beginning. So it was all very, very detailed, plus an explanation on how we communicate with each other in our languages. If we have some difficulty understanding each other, how do we communicate? Do we need a translator? Stuff like that. So it's very, 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 very detailed. So after that, we also provided snapshots of our relationship. The government only required like 2 to 3 photos, but I provided like more than that because they wanted to show every photo from the highlight of our relationship from the very beginning. So Christmas parties together, New Year celebrations, first time meeting each other's parents, first time meeting each other's grandparents, how many times we saw each other, holiday trips together, stuff like that. So like I printed it all on a piece of bond paper. My husband detailed each event. Like this photo is our wedding date. This photo is from our trip to Bali. This photo is from our trip to the Philippines, stuff like that. And then there's also the portrait photo of yourself, which is to be attached to your application form. So the portrait photo has to be recent, within 3 months, and it has to be those specific dimensions. 4 centimeter by 3 centimeter. Close up, looking straight into the camera, no background, just white background, and at the very back, you write your full name and your birthday. So I wrote it in English and then in Nihongo, and then my birthday in English, like in the numbers and stuff. I pasted it on the application form. So the next one is the letter of guarantee. We printed this by ourselves. Of course, we chose the Japanese version. Wrote my husband's parents' names, and then we asked them to sign it with their inkan or seal. And then I requested for my NSO marriage certificate from PSA Service online. It's actually very quick. I got it in like 2 weeks. You just really have to track it and then message them if you still haven't received your document. Since we got married abroad, my marriage certificate really looks like a report of marriage from the Philippine Embassy. We also provided a translation of that. My husband wrote on Microsoft Word the translation of each detail of my marriage certificate. I also provided a copy of my birth certificate, and my husband went through all the effort of translating that said birth certificate as well. And then we sent these documents to my parents-in-law. So these documents are the application form, the questionnaire form, snapshots of ourselves, the 4 cm by 3 cm photo attached to the application form, the letter of guarantee, my marriage certificate and translation, as well as my birth certificate and translation. As soon as they received them, they also included in the documents to be submitted my parents-in-law's JUMINHYO or residence certificate, the kosekitohon of my husband. This is very important. The kosekitohon is basically the Japanese government's way of tracking marriages and important family events. So when we got married, the kosekitohon should include my name. So it should be the most recent kosekitohon, and it should be issued within 3 months. So yeah, my parents-in-law's JUMINHYO, kosekitohon, and of course the JUMINZEI, very important because they are the guarantors. They have to show that they have been paying taxes to the government for at least a year. This is a way to prove that your guarantor could help support for you as soon as you arrive. Of course, you know, this is an assurance. If the parents are willing to help you, then that means the marriage is probably legit. Yeah, so if you don't have parents in Japan, then maybe best to consult with an immigration lawyer, which could be a bit more expensive. Yeah, okay, so moving forward, they also submitted a return mail envelope costing 392, and well, the cost will be from the stamp. Yeah, so they submitted it to the Regional Immigration Bureau of their prefecture. The processing time actually depends on which area you're staying in. Obviously, if you live around Tokyo and you submit it to the Regional Immigration Bureau in Tokyo, especially during the time where a lot of students are enrolling, you're gonna have a hard time getting it as soon as possible. The average processing time is around 1 to 3 months, but since my parents-in-law lived a bit further from the main cities, they're not exactly in Osaka or in Tokyo, the processing time is so much faster. My COE was released after 20 days. We submitted it around June 28th. The results came out July 17th. But again, this really depends on the time when you submitted the COE. If it's obviously a busy time and you submit it to a usually busy immigration bureau, then yeah, it's gonna take a long time. So yeah, I guess that's it. We waited for a while because as soon as my parents-in-law received the COE, they had to send it back to me in the Philippines. And since the Philippines is a relatively dodgy postal service, I have to make sure I'm tracking everything online because it's a very important document. And if you don't get it, you might not be able to get the spouse visa. So it's very important for me to keep tracking and tracking and tracking. Thankfully, the EMS postal service was actually quite quick. I got mine in like less than 14 days from Japan. So it's actually quite good. And they actually delivered straight to my house. I didn't have to go to the post office just to make sure it's being delivered. So that's good. So yeah, once we got that, I felt a huge sigh of relief. Like, oh my God, thank goodness. Because now we can apply for the spouse visa. So yep, I hope this has been helpful. I'm sorry if I'm rambling on too much, but yeah, if you want to check out more details on how to get the spouse visa, I suggest you check out the Regional Immigration Bureau website, which I will be attaching right here. And then also make sure to check it out in Nihongo because the English version is a bit vague. They didn't include some details like the history of your relationship and the questionnaire form. So yeah, you might need a lot of help from your partner on this one, but trust me, it's going to be a whole lot easier once you get the COE. Really, I'm serious, it's a whole lot easier. When I got the COE and I applied for my spouse visa, I got it in like less than a week. So yeah, the COE is the most important but also the most difficult one to get. So patience, 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 and make sure to plan ahead now to get the documents. I hope this has been helpful and see you next time.